It is a combination of subconscious cues, personal preference, and cultural exaggeration. Now, imagine the pressure this creates for men. Because society has placed so much weight on this one factor, many men grow up feeling insecure, comparing themselves, and sometimes even questioning their worth as partners. But here's the empowering truth. Biology does not say that bigger automatically means better. Instead, biology says that confidence, emotional intelligence, and the ability to connect matter far more for bonding and satisfaction. Women are wired not just to seek physical traits, but to seek protection, empathy, and emotional security. So those qualities make a far greater impact than any physical measurement. This is where education is so important. When we look at attraction purely through the lens of biology, we understand that while size may have been symbolically linked to survival and dominance thousands of years ago, today's reality is very different. Modern relationships thrive on communication, emotional intimacy, and mutual understanding. The symbol of size is just that, a symbol. It is not the full story, and it certainly is not the foundation of love, trust, or satisfaction. What makes this conversation even more powerful is when women themselves step forward and break the myth. Many women say openly that the obsession with size is overrated. What they actually value is emotional closeness, confidence, respect, and attentiveness. And this directly proves that biology and psychology work together, while the subconscious mind may notice size as a symbol. The conscious mind and heart demand something much deeper. So if we return to the original question, why do women love the idea of big size so much? The honest answer is this. Many don't. What they love is the feeling of security, dominance, and confidence that has historically been symbolized by it. What they truly desire is a partner who understands them, respects them, and knows how to create intimacy beyond the physical. That's where real satisfaction lies. And that's what lasts long after the initial fascination fades. And so the next time this conversation comes up, remember this. Biology gave us symbols. Psychology gave us imagination. But true human connection goes far beyond either. In the end, what women actually love is not size itself, but the deeper experience that intimacy creates. And that is a truth powerful enough to silence every myth. Have you ever asked yourself why in movies, jokes, or even casual conversations, size is always portrayed as the ultimate standard of masculinity? Why is it that across cultures and societies, the image of bigger is better has been so deeply planted into our minds? The truth is, this fascination didn't grow naturally from biology alone. It was carefully shaped, repeated, and reinforced by the media, by cultural narratives, and by social conditioning. Social conditioning. From the very beginning of modern entertainment, storytelling has exaggerated physical traits as symbols of power. Heroes were shown as tall, strong, and dominant. Villains were often described as lacking or inadequate in some way. And somewhere along the way, size became one of those exaggerated markers of strength and superiority. When a culture constantly feeds you images of what the ideal man should look like, it creates a subconscious belief system that size equals value. Women absorb those narratives, men internalize them, and the cycle of myth continues. Let's take movies as an example. Romantic comedies, dramas, and even mainstream films often hint at size jokes, using them as a punchline. Adult entertainment takes it even further, showcasing unrealistic body types and performances, creating the illusion that this is what women universally crave. But here's the catch. What you see on a screen is not reality. It's performance, it's exaggeration, it's designed for shock value and entertainment. Unfortunately, when people watch these images again and again, they start to measure themselves and their partners against a scripted fantasy. That's how cultural conditioning takes root. Now think about peer influence. From teenage years, many boys grow up hearing locker room jokes, comparing themselves and teasing each other. Girls, too, sometimes repeat what they've heard in the media, reinforcing the stereotype. Over time, these conversations turn into beliefs. By the time people become adults, many carry those cultural messages into their relationships, even though they don't reflect genuine intimacy or real human needs. The irony here is powerful. Studies show that when women are asked privately and honestly about their preferences, the majority say size is not the deciding factor in attraction or satisfaction. Yet publicly, the cultural narrative still glorifies the opposite. Why? Because culture thrives on exaggeration, people love stories that are dramatic, bold, and easy to repeat. Saying it's not about size, it's about connection may be true, but it doesn't make a funny joke, a viral clip, or a dramatic headline. So the myths keep spreading while the reality gets silenced. This leads to one of the most damaging consequences, insecurity. Men often grow up comparing themselves not to reality, but to the cultural script. They see images of actors, adult performers, or celebrities and believe that anything less than that exaggerated standard is not enough. Women, on the other hand, sometimes feel pressured to act as though size is their ultimate preference, even if it's not what truly matters to them. This creates a cycle of performance where both men and women play roles that are not authentic just to match cultural expectations. Let's break that cycle for a moment. What does culture not show us? Culture rarely shows us intimacy built on emotional connection. It rarely highlights the importance of trust, communication, and understanding in relationships. Instead, it promotes a quick, flashy version of attraction where physical traits overshadow deeper values. But anyone who has been in a meaningful relationship knows the truth. The foundation of satisfaction is emotional and psychological connection, not the size of any body part. Interestingly, not all cultures emphasize size in the same way. In some societies, wealth, status, or social position play a much bigger role in attraction. In others, personality and charisma are celebrated. This shows that preferences are not fixed or universal. They are shaped by what a society chooses to glorify. The obsession with size is therefore not purely natural, but highly cultural. It is the result of repetition, storytelling, and the images we consume daily. Another important layer is marketing. Products, services, and even entire industries benefit from men feeling insecure about their bodies. Pills, pumps, surgeries, and supplements are sold on the promise of making men bigger and better, feeding directly off the insecurity that culture has planted. The more the myth grows, the more profitable it becomes. And so society keeps reinforcing it because there's money to be made in keeping men insecure and women doubtful. But here's where the story shifts. We are living in a time when people are starting to question these narratives. More women are openly speaking out, saying size is not the defining factor of pleasure or satisfaction. More men are realizing that confidence, emotional intelligence, and attentiveness in intimacy matter far more than chasing unrealistic ideals. The cultural conversation is slowly changing, and education is at the center of that transformation. So when we ask why do women seem to love bigger size so much, the real answer is this: many don't. What they love is the confidence, the dominance, or the excitement that culture has taught them to associate with it. The media, entertainment, and social narratives have amplified that symbol. But in real life, women value emotional presence, genuine intimacy, and how a partner makes them feel far more than any measurement. The challenge now is unlearning what culture has fed us. It's about separating fantasy from reality, performance from truth, and stereotype from genuine human connection. Because once you strip away the noise of cultural conditioning, you see that intimacy is not about living up to exaggerated expectations, but about creating trust, safety, and joy with another person. And that is something no media myth can ever replace. Here's the truth. When it comes to intimacy, the mind is far more powerful than the body. You can have all the physical attributes that society glorifies, but if the psychological connection is missing, the experience feels empty. So the real question is not why women love size, but why the idea of it holds such weight in the imagination, and the answer is simple: perception is everything. Attraction begins in the mind, and what people believe often matters more than what actually exists. When a woman thinks about intimacy, her experience is not just physical. It's emotional, mental, and deeply psychological. The idea of size has been made into a symbol of confidence, passion, and dominance. And so when she hears about it, sees it in media, or imagines it, her brain creates a fantasy around it. But here's the important part. Fantasy and reality are not the same thing. The fantasy may be about size, but the reality of pleasure, satisfaction, and connection comes from communication, presence, and attentiveness. Think about it this way. A beautiful meal doesn't taste good just because of its portion size. It tastes good because of flavor, preparation, and how it makes you feel while eating it. Intimacy is the same. Women are not truly chasing measurements. They are chasing the emotional experience that surrounds intimacy. They want to feel desired, valued, and deeply connected. And often the cultural narrative has confused size with the delivery of those emotions. Psychologically, people often link external traits with internal qualities. Bigger is assumed to mean stronger, more confident, more capable. But what women actually fall in love with is not size, it's confidence itself. Confidence creates safety, comfort, and excitement. A man who carries himself with assurance, who knows how to communicate and express affection, will create a far deeper impact than size ever could. That's why so many women, when asked honestly, will admit connection and emotional intimacy outweigh any physical factor. Now let's talk about perception in relationships. Many men enter intimacy with insecurities, worrying if they measure up to society's standards. What they don't realize is that women are often not thinking about those details at all. What a woman notices is attentiveness, how you look at her, how you listen, how you respond to her needs. In those moments, psychological safety is what matters most. Feeling emotionally seen and respected creates trust, and trust creates openness. That's when intimacy truly flourishes. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Women are far more diverse in their preferences than the stereotype suggests. Some may prefer the idea of larger size. Some don't, and many don't care at all. What's common across almost all women, however, is the importance of emotional connection. When a partner makes her feel valued, understood, and loved, physical details fade in significance. This is why long-term relationships thrive not on appearance, but on emotional compatibility and shared intimacy. Consider this. When women describe the most memorable moments of intimacy, they rarely focus on physical size. Instead, they talk about passion, the feeling of being desired, or the emotional depth of the experience. They talk about laughter, vulnerability, and trust that tells us everything. What creates lasting fulfillment is not size, but the psychological meaning behind the act. Intimacy is communication without words, and the strongest language is emotional presence. Another aspect is imagination. The brain is wired to amplify fantasies to create stories around desire. Sometimes the idea of something larger than life feels exciting, not because of the thing itself, but because of what it represents in the imagination. It's the same reason people dream of expensive cars or luxury vacations, not because they need them to survive, but because they symbolize excitement, status, and fantasy. In reality, happiness comes from simpler, deeper experiences. The same truth applies here. Imagination exaggerates size, but fulfillment comes from connection. It's also crucial to address the pressure this creates. Many men fear that they are not enough because of this stereotype, when in reality, their ability to connect emotionally matters far more. Women themselves are often frustrated with the myth because it distracts from what they truly value. This is where education becomes empowering. By shifting the focus from physical myths to emotional truth, both men and women can experience intimacy in its most authentic form. What does authentic intimacy look like? It looks like trust. It looks like respect. It looks like two people who can communicate openly about what they need, what they desire, and what makes them feel good. It looks like laughter in between moments, comfort in silence, and the feeling of safety and vulnerability. These are the experiences women cherish. These are the moments that stay in memory long after physical details are forgotten. So why does the myth of size still dominate conversations? Because perception is powerful. People repeat what they hear, what they see, and what they think others believe. But as more voices speak openly about the truth, the perception begins to shift. Women themselves are saying louder than ever. Intimacy is about connection, not comparison. It is about presence, not performance. And it is about how a partner makes you feel, not how they measure. The lesson is clear. Attraction begins in the mind and satisfaction is sustained by the heart. The fascination with size is more psychological than physical. It's not about the measurement. It's about the meaning people attach to it. And once we strip away the myths, we see the truth. Women love confidence. They love attentiveness, and they love the depth of intimacy that goes beyond the physical. In the end, what truly matters is this. Intimacy is a partnership of minds and hearts. The body plays a role. Yes, but it is not the foundation. The foundation is emotional safety, psychological connection, and the joy of being truly seen by another person. And that is something no stereotype, no myth, and no cultural exaggeration can ever